welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the last one. Today we're going to be focusing on how to really sculpt the face, go into detail on contouring. Contouring has really become a massive craze, and what I want to try and do is help you be able to do this at home with a couple of little products. So let's get started. So the first thing is you do not need as many tones of foundation as this. I'm using the Senna palettes, which are the cream to powder foundations. And what we're going to do, we're going to place a few different colours to really bring and make the work of our contour bronzer come to life. The first thing I'm going to do is use a lighter tone. Gemma already has had a slightly paler foundation applied to the face. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the centre of the face, as you can see with my flat foundation brush. I'm going to lighten the centre T-zone of the face. Still holding on to our light coloured foundation, we're going to bring some lightness underneath this eye area to both sides of the face. The lightness will really make the eye look refreshed, and as well as that, it's also going to help when you see the rest of the tones focus on this part, drawing your attention to the beautiful smoky eyes we're going to create later on. The next thing we're doing, we're going to build these dark tones around the outside of the face to really sculpt it. Don't worry that it's standing out and you can really see it. We're going to merge all of these tones together. This is more for your purposes to see at home where to place the colour. Again, we're sculpting into the cheekbones by bringing this to underneath the cheekbone. Again, don't keep it too far forward because you'll kill that illusion. Next, we pick the tone of foundation that's actually closest to Gemma's skin tone, and we bring that just beneath the darkness, pushing the light to the centre of the face and across the T-zone. Again, we're putting this in between the darkness that we've sculpted underneath the cheekbones. If you can't see with your face shape where you need to sculpt, I think the one thing that made sense to me was if you can imagine the oval shape, which is what a lot of contouring is about, is trying to make the face look more symmetrical and more oval. We're going to ditch the flat foundation brush and bring up our microfiber foundation brush, simply to merge and to buff in the various tones that we've placed on the complexion, so that we start to really make this contouring less obvious, but kick in and start to do its job. What I've done, I've set everything into place again with a little bit of powder, but I want to go over the work that I've already began with using those different shades of foundation. If you're in a rush or you want to do some contouring for daytime and you don't necessarily want it to be just as dramatic, you can get away with using something like the little Makeup Studio contour kit. I'm going to use it now, but I'm going to use it a little bit heavier than probably I would do if I was doing a daytime makeup. And I'm going to use this little contour brush to really sculpt and to build up on the work that the foundations have already begun. As you can see, you have your contour colour, but you also have your highlight colour as well. This is a matte tone, so it's perfect for doing highlighting in the centre of the face. You wouldn't want to use anything that's iridescent or has a shimmer, because you'll end up starting to look like the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz. So we're going to turn around and put a little bit of this down the centre of the face. We're also going to put some just between the sculpting that we've done with the darker tone underneath the cheekbone and the jaw line. So we're putting this lighter tone in there, so we're highlighting in there. And we're also going to put a little bit of highlight through the top of the cheekbone as well. Again, you can use this where you want to create a really dramatic effect or you want to create something very subtle. It's just more about the application and the amount of product that you're placing on the face. So either way, you're able to create something for day or night. Next step we're going to do is, because we want this really beautiful golden complexion, I'm using a peach tone blusher as opposed to a pink or a raspberry. I want it to look very, very warm in tone. So I'm loading it up on my brush, and again, I'm building it up on the apples of the cheekbones to really make them look nice and rounded and perked. Even add a slight bit of peach to the top of the complexion on the outside. The peachy tone, I think, works really well with a lot of skin here in Northern Ireland, especially because there's so much red, so people tend to stay away from pinks because what they're trying to conceal is the pink natural lion tone of the complexion. So peach is a beautiful complementary blush colour that works on so many different skin tones. Next product that we're going to use is a little bit more of the Senna Afterglow. I'm going to use the side of the brush, and again, we've already put the matte highlighter on, but I want a little bit more glamour than that. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of the shimmer highlighter through the top of the blush and around the side of the temples, just to capture that light. You can see how the light just grabs hold of it and gives you that really strong line to the cheekbones. We're ready to get cracking on these smoky eyes. Well, we're going to go smoky, so we're going to have a really strong brow. We're not talking scouse brow, but we're talking very shapely. And to do that, I'm using some powder. What we want to do is just strengthen. Gemma already has a really beautiful brow anyway. So what I want to do is just square this off a little bit. What I'm doing here is drawing a little line here at the side and bringing it out in tiny little flecks to resemble the natural shape of the brows. So as you can see, already it creates so much structure and frames the entire face once the eyebrow is done. So I'm going to repeat the same process on the other side with my beautiful Senna Brow Kit. The next product I'm going to use is the Senna Brow Gel. If you want the perfect brows, you need to make sure that they stay perfect the entire night. So what I'm going to do is comb them into place with the gel. A little top tip is to comb the brow hairs straight up. And when you've done that, then you bring them back down and comb them into place. But bring them from the top so they almost crisscross through each other, creating much more of a natural type of look with the brows. Okay, so I want them to look shapely and strong, but I do not want the person to look like a caricature either. The next thing we're going to get cracking on is the eye. I've chosen this beautiful golden palette of colour from Makeup Atelier. It's the T5 palette. I'm going to leave out both of these two colours and go straight in with this beautiful sandstone colour. I'm using the blending brush, and what I'm going to do here is do almost like a haze of colour across the whole of the eye, bringing it up towards the brow, but I'm leaving almost a tiniest little bit of lightness underneath the eyebrows. So this time we're going to use more of this beautiful burnt copper tone. The same brush again, build it up. These pigments are really strong, so make sure you don't have too much on your brush, tap off any excess. The idea with this is to build the colour, and each time I'm going to get lower, and we're building this up towards where we placed the other one, but just not quite as high. So you can see how we're building the tone on tone. For me, when I look at eye makeup, it always has to be beautiful, have that depth of colour, you know, it can be as dramatic as you like, but I don't like to see heavy lines with makeup. I don't like to see the exterior line not blended perfectly. If you want to have a strong line, then make it definite and make it deliberate, that's fine. But when you're doing this type of look, where each of the colours blend perfectly into each other, there shouldn't be any lines left with your makeup. Now we're on our deep rustic red brown. Again, tap off your excess and build this across the whole of the lid of the eye. Remember, the darker you go, the more chance you have of building your colour and it not merging into the previous colour. So make sure you really work your brush and blend these colours into each other. The next thing I'm going to do is use some black kohl pencil and fill the bottom waterline. When you're doing this type of smoky eye and you're using black pencil, make sure you really go for it. There's nothing as bad as seeing black pencil where it looks almost faded because you haven't originally put enough on the eye. So the next tool that we're going to use is the little bullet brush. This brush will then start to soften down this line because it's got the strength of the colour, but it's quite bitty, and what I want is a smoothness of just blending this out. So what we're going to do is use almost like a little rubber technique, backwards and forwards, until we try to soften this line down, because again, for me, it's about having the strength of the colour, but then trying to graduate it and blend it back out into the skin. So we're really working the colour here until we have a nice smooth edge. So you can see one side compared to the other, we're starting to get that really smooth look that we're after underneath the eyes. So we do the same to the other side here. So you can see we're starting to build this element. It still looks a little bit chunky to me. It still looks a little bit severe. So what I want to do is take some eyeshadow and soften down the line underneath. And we're just going to soften with the copper underneath through the bottom of this black. And you'll see it's starting to graduate out always get in the habit of going right away and doing the same thing to one side and then immediately repeating it on the other. It's much better, but it's still not there. I'm still not happy. I still think it's a little bit too linear. So I'm going to use a tiny bit of the sandstone colour. Same on my bullet brush, working it in. And again, I'm just bringing this through the bottom of the copper tone. The bottom of the eye is like a little bottom heavy, so I'm just going to go up and I'm going to sculpt a little more into the top of the eye just to smoke it out a little bit more. So, using the dark brown, I'm going to sculpt a little bit more into the crease. So, we're going to just keep smoking this up through the crease. Next, we're going to finish the smoking out the eye with some black eyeshadow. Again, sometimes everyone assumes to have a smoky eye, you have to start right away with your black eyeshadow. When I find it's the least colour that I will use on the eyes because I feel it's very severe if you do a solid block of black. I prefer to build my tones and then incorporate it towards the end of the blending. One thing I am going to do this time is get Gemma to close her eyes, and I'm going to put on some liquid liner. Again, remember, don't have too much product in your brush. Make sure your brush doesn't have any wee stray hairs. The only type of liner I want to do here is just to build up the lash line. So we're going to just follow the natural shape. Look straight for me. So you can see it really helps to curve and mold out the natural shape of the eye. If you find it difficult, just try to maybe then, as opposed to using a liquid, maybe start off and use something with a gel, maybe even try some shadow. Everybody has many different ways of doing their eyeliner in the top, and sometimes it's a case of trying the right product before you're happy with the way the application turns out. But one thing I will say is try when you're doing this type of liner, when it comes towards the inside tear duct, to taper that almost underneath the wee fold of skin towards the tear duct in here. So if you just make sure that folds nice and neatly in out of the way. No smoky eye would be complete without lashings and lashings of mascara. Just be careful when you're doing your mascara that you don't put on so many layers that it starts to congeal and look like you could pick your dead flies off it. As you can see, Gemma's eyelashes have really came to life with a couple of coats of mascara. The Makeup Studio Volume mascara is fantastic. You know, it's not a cosmetic campaign where you think beautiful lashes, but actually they've used 3 sets of strip lashes to achieve that. This is the natural effect of the mascara. Finishing off, we're going to create a really beautiful soft nude lip. So I'm going to use a stain first of all. I'm not even going to bother using liner. You don't always have to use liner. And again, to keep it less focused on the lips and more focused on the eyes, I don't want to draw any more attention. This is a really beautiful coral to tie in with the coral blusher that we've already used on the apples of the cheeks. And it has almost like tiny gold specks going through it as well. Beautiful spring summer colour to use. And then on the other side we have a little bit of clear gloss. So we put this over it just for a glossy effect. Again, the stain can be worn by itself, but if you want to have that extra little bit of sheen to your lips, put the clear over the top of it, allowing the eyes to really stand main focus, centre stage with the whole look. So to conclude, we are going to fix it into place. This is going to stay perfectly on the dance floor all night. I've promised Gemma that she'll be perfect at 4 o'clock in the morning. So our fix spray to finish. So there you have it, our Kim Kardashian inspired look. That heavy, really sculpted contouring, smoky, glamorous eyes and a nude lip to finish. Bon appetit.